What is up, current tech fans? Welcome back to a very special garage tinkering video because today I get to unveil to you the first official product that we're releasing here at Garage Tinkering, which has effectively been designed by all of you. You see, 2 weeks ago, I put out version 1 of my ultimate gauge PCB and asked if anybody was going to be interested in potentially using them for their own projects. And if so, what other additional things might you want to see on the board that make it really suitable for all of the purposes that you want to use them for? I thought we might get, 20 people interested, 50 at a push, not hundreds of you like we actually got. Suffice to say, I've been pretty overwhelmed about the response to these things, but I've made a bunch of changes and improvements based on your recommendations, and I'm going to share them with you now. Also, I get to share an additional thing that is coming as an accompaniment to that board, which is a special purposefully created LCD screen that is going to work perfectly with these boards and within your vehicle because of all the extra special things that we've added to it. And then finally, I'll let you know where you can pre-order these boards for yourself, how long the wait's going to be, all of that good stuff. But first, let's take a look at version 1.1 of the boards that I'm calling it a slight iteration, and all of the new features we've added based on the plethora of thoughts and ideas that you guys had. It's worth noting, though, that neither the board nor the screens exist at this point. We'll get into why in a minute, but we'll check it out in the KiCad render of the update, which we have here. If you watched the video about version 1 of this board, you'll notice that it's actually quite a bit different because I had to basically remake the whole thing from scratch. The big thing you're going to notice straight away is that the actual MCU that we've used in the middle is a different one. We were using the ESP32S, the Room 1. Now we're using the Room, I can't never not do that, 1U. The difference being obviously the antenna. This one doesn't have an integrated antenna as part of the SMD. This one has an external. It's done for two reasons. One, it frees up a little bit more board space, which we quite desperately need with all of the extra stuff. And two, means we're able to use an external antenna when we want. Obviously, not every instance that you're using these boards are necessarily going to need wireless, so you might want to forego the antenna. But when you do, you can bring it away from this component, and bearing in mind there's going to be a metal backed screen right behind it, which is very prone to blocking Wi-Fi signals. Just by bringing it away makes things a little bit easier, and it means that you're not going to get interference quite as much. So we're using a different chip. One of the most requested things was this canvas and power daisy chaining. So we added an additional 4-pin JST connector, which means you can now put power and canvas in, and then you can also pull the power and canvas out. So as and when you connect this side up to your car, let's say you had 3 of these gauges alongside one another, you can then just go from one to the next and then from one to the next and daisy chain it along. So long as you supply sufficient power that when you're connecting these in series, you don't get an amp drop that's too much. You should be fine. Generally speaking, I'd say 3 of these in a row is going to be absolutely fine, especially when paired with our power adapter, which I'll get to in a minute. Sticking at the top of the board, it was noted that why would you need to solder in a 120 ohm resistor if you want to do this as a termination resistor that you might sometimes need for canvas? It's a bit of a pain, so we've put the resistor in here, and you can just use the solder jumper if you want to actually use a 120 ohm resistor as part of your canvas circuit. So makes life a little bit easier. Down here, you'll see we've gone vertical with the USB. Fantastic suggestion by a lot of you. It makes things a lot easier. So when this is in an enclosure, you'll be able to put the USB connection cable in straight from the back. Don't have to have holes in the side of the enclosure. Much better quality of life improvement. Over on the opposite side, the most requested thing, additional GPIO pins that you can put your own stuff into, whether that's your own sensors or hardware interrupt, whatever that might be. I don't know, it's going to be up to you, but we've put 3 extension GPIO inputs on the board. You can use them for whatever you want. They do run through the IO expander, which we've popped in down here, but you can use them exactly the same as you'd use a standard GPIO on the board itself, and the code will all be in the demo code to show you how to use those. So dead simple. One of the great things about having put in the IO expander is that we opened up a load of additional extra ports, so touch is available again. Where we'd terminated and removed all of the touch capability last time, it's now all back. So if you are going to want to utilize a screen that has touch so you can touch it, you can do. Now, a lot of you asked for I2C connector, a dedicated I2C connector to put in some form of periphery. Some of you wanted Quick, some of you wanted Grove, some wanted Stemmer, and I didn't want to shoehorn you all into a decision. So we've put the connectors in here. Fortunately, they all use the same order of pins, and you can just solder whichever socket you want on there, be it Quick, Stemmer, Grove, or whatever it might be. And the last bit, very simply, is some mounting points. Obviously, you want these if you're putting something in a car, so you can make sure it's securely fastened down. Now, I am, as part of this whole process, about to release a 3D printable enclosure, which will perfectly fit into a standard 60mm gauge pod. And as part of that, it will utilize all of the mounting points and everything to make sure that this board stays in there perfectly snug. But I know a lot of you are going to have your own applications and own places where you want to put these gauges. So over the next couple of weeks, basically before these boards arrive in your hands anyway, I will release some free step files for the enclosure that I have created. So if you want to modify it for your own purposes, you can do, and all of the mounting points and, holes where all the wires go through will already all be set up for you. So that, all in all, is the new board, version 1.1 of my 2.1-inch LCD driver. There was one commonly requested piece of functionality that we didn't very purposefully put into this version of the board, and that was the ability to put the car's raw 14-ish volt power into this board, because sometimes you've got to pick your battles, and in order to add all the extra overvoltage protections and ESD protections and transient protections and reverse polarity protections and everything that you need when you're talking about powering from a dirty automotive input, basically really compacts up this board. But instead, what I'm in the process of creating, and what will be available by the time these boards again ship, is a daughter board. So it uses mounting point A and B, these two, and these two JST connectors, and it basically clips straight on top. It's like a half circle, and then you can go from your raw car input straight into the connector on the top of that daughter board, and the daughter board will do all of the voltage regulation, protections, all of that kind of stuff. It gives us actually 2 really good additional advantages. One is you don't need to have all those extra buck converters and inducers and all those extra protection things on every board, which means the cost of producing each board is reduced. But also, because of the way this daisy chain works, if you do have 3 of these boards alongside each other, you only need that protection board once on the first one that inputs. On the second one and the third one, they're taking the same knockdown voltage, so you've already protected all of those other 2. So it means you minimize the amount of extra stuff that you need. Obviously, if you're using, say, 3 boards in 3 different places of the car, you might want 3 protection add-ons, but if you're using them all together, 1 will suffice. So that's the new board and the concept behind it. I'm very happy with it at this point. There are potentially going to be a couple of tiny tweaks and alterations before this goes into final production. I'm just looking through it with my harem of experts, and we might need to make a couple of tweaks, but basically this is going to be it. This is going to be the functionality that's available on it. Right now, the prototypes of this board are being manufactured by PCB, who I am partnering with, as usual, for the production and, mass deployment of these boards. And it's great partnering with a company that I know, even though we have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these boards being produced, that they're all going to work. They're all going to be really high quality, well produced. Everything that I have received from PCB over the last 6 months or so of partnering with them has been fantastic, and I've got no doubt that the quality of these boards is going to be fantastic too. And it's great that I feel like I can entrust that to them and know that the stuff that you get in your hands is going to meet my, frankly, ridiculously high quality standards. If you are looking at getting your own kind of prototype boards made, if you use the link in my description, you can get $5 off your first purchase. And if you're just getting like blank boards made, they're only $5 anyway. So you'll get your first boards for just the cost of postage, which is really, really good. I warn you though, the first time you do it, you will unlock something and then you'll be making PCBs custom for the rest of your life. It's a slippery slope. But like I said, this isn't just about the board anymore. This is also about the screens, because I've been using these pretty standard 2.1-inch ST7701 screens from AliExpress, and they've been fine. They're not the brightest screen in the world. They've got a brightness of about 300 nits or 300 candelas per meter square. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, so whichever one you prefer. And the big problem is that they're very, very shiny. So when you put them in a car, they work great so long as they're under some kind of cover, but as soon as you get direct light on them, they can become difficult to read due to the reflectiveness and the low brightness and the fact that they're not really intended for that environment. So I've been speaking with a number of LCD manufacturing companies in China, and I've managed to come to a deal with one of them to produce exclusively for Garage Tinkering a range of automotive specific 2.1-inch perfectly created RGB screens to accompany these boards. Again, I don't have one to show you because right now it's conceptual, but it's going to be the same as this, but different. Because like I say, these have got a brightness of about 300 nits and they're very shiny. Ours are not going to be like that. First and foremost, the glass that is being produced is completely different. It's anti-glare, so no more problem with reflections. It's anti-dust and it's anti-scratch, which is perfect when you get in a car. And it's also high durability, which means if you, accidentally knock it, it shouldn't instantly shatter into 1,000 pieces. But alongside the vastly improved glass, we're upping the brightness from 300 nits to 1,000 nits. And the contrast is being hugely boosted, which means no matter the environment, whether it's directly in the middle of the dashboard and you've got direct light coming in straight onto the screen, it should still be very readable with a really good contrast, so you're not going to miss any of the important data that's going on in these screens. I searched high and low to try and find these screens already, and yeah, it just turns out they don't exist. So it's fantastic that I managed to find a company that was willing to create these special screens, especially for us. I'm going to be selling them, and that's the only place you can get them. Unless, of course, obviously you want to go and pay very large numbers of money to R&D some new screens that are currently not on the market. But you probably don't. So, Andy, enough with the waffle. How much are they and where can I get them? Well, yesterday I made a website. So if we head over to garagetinkering.com, funnily enough, we can see our pre-order products. Now, as of right this moment, this is like Tuesday morning, there are a couple of little issues on the website. I've got a security warning. It's because I only literally built this website yesterday evening and propagated over the domain, so the SSL hasn't transferred yet. I'm hoping by the time this video comes out, that will have all been sorted. But if not, it should be within the next 24 hours. But I've kept this now really simple. On the homepage, you have the three main products: the bundle of a screen and a board together, just the board or just the screen. But if we go into the shop, there's an additional secret fourth one, which is the 14-volt power protection board. It's not going to look like that. It's just a placeholder image. I haven't really designed it fully yet. But these are the 4 items you can get. And as I'm sure you've peeped already, the prices that we've decided to put on these is for the board and screen together is £49, which equates to about $65. The board by itself is £35, which is about $43, I think. The screen is £17, which is about $22.50. And the power protection board is $15, which is about $20. As I said, I am working on the files for the 3D printed enclosure. When I've got that finished, everybody who's done the orders, I'll just email them out to you. And then afterwards, everything will be on this website. This website will fill out as we move forwards, but for now, it's very bare bones. Also, for those of you without 3D printers, at some point soon, I'll get a load of pre-made enclosures, like ABS injection molded enclosures created, but one thing at a time. I'm spinning enough plates as it is right now without adding that extra one on top, but they'll be coming pretty soon. I'll be honest, I really struggled when pricing this stuff up. It's not something I've ever had to do before, but I looked at some of the competitors, not that there are really any competitors for this, and they're just mad expensive. Like a single gauge with a needle on it for your turbo is like £160. That's crazy money. You can get 3 of these for that, and these will do anything. So much better. But yeah, so I wanted to make them affordable so as many of you can get them as possible. All of these boards and all of these screens are going to be shipped to me here in the UK from the different manufacturers, and I'm going to be putting these things together, sticking some garage tinkering stickers in there, filling it with love, and then sending it on to all of you, which is really good if you're in the US, because it'll avoid your currently crazy tariff system with China. There is one last caveat with all this. I can only offer these as a low price that I can because of the economy of scale. If we were going to buy 10 boards and 10 screens, they would literally be 3 to 4 times more expensive per unit because of ordering low volume. This only works when you're ordering many hundreds, like towards 1,000 units. And to have, let's say, 1,000 screens made and 1,000 PCBs made is very, very expensive. And I don't know about you, but I don't really have 30 grand sitting aside that I can just risk to spend on 1,000 screens and 1,000 PCBs. So that's why this is a pre-order. Basically, your orders are going to pay for the product. It makes sense, really. It's basically just crowdfunding a launch, but without having to pay a fee to Kickstarter. So there's a good chance that after this first wave, the prices of these will go up. So how long it takes to get these into your hands very much depends on how many of these get bought. There is a minimum number threshold. And as soon as that minimum order number threshold is passed, I'll just submit the order. And if a decent percentage of you that raised interest in the I'm interested form actually go and pick up the number of boards that you said, we'll be fine. We'll get to that number dead easy. Now I'm waiting for the prototype PCB to come from PCB Way so I can just ensure that everything is working with it. And that should be here in, I'd say, about 3 weeks. So when that arrives and I've ticked it off and made sure everything is okay, assuming we've passed that order threshold, we'll pull the trigger, and it should be about 4 to 5 weeks from that point that I'll get hold of them, and then I'll distribute them. So to answer the question, what timeline are we looking at? Probably 8 to 10 weeks from now, 12 at an absolute tail end push. Should we not hit the minimum order threshold in, let's say, 4 weeks, I'll just cancel everything. I'll refund everybody, and I'll have a little cry and probably quit YouTube forever. Now, yeah, in the worst case, I'll just refund everyone. But I really don't think it's going to come to that. So yeah, I guess you've got nothing left to do other than head over to garagetinkering.com and pick yourself up some boards and screens. The big thing that I'm genuinely excited about with this product is this is part 1 of an ecosystem of hardware and software that is going to really define a lot of the stuff we're producing over the next 12 months. Where we've got that 12-volt protection board, we're going to have a bunch of other daughter and accessory boards that empower you to do other things around your car, whether it's a dedicated multi-ADC that allow you to pick up sensors from around the car and feed them directly into your gauge clusters, or defining off-the-shelf wireless button clusters that you can stick on your steering wheel, or you can stick anywhere in your car and you press it and it does things like putting tactile control back into cars that often don't have them. It's an ecosystem both of hardware and as software. The idea, again, is that as we move the software forwards, by the time these land, we should have mobile phone control for the screen design integrated, which means you can just take the code from the repo, install it, connect to the screen with your phone, and then change how it looks. We'll then create a space within that software ecosystem that allow you to create and then share your own designs. So let's say you create a design that is a really good match to the OEM gauges in a MX-5. You go, oh, other MX-5 owners might like this. You can share your design and anyone else can just download it, install it as part of the ecosystem and use it themselves. At some point, we'll start creating some videos that highlight some of the best community builds on them that I think will be really fun to shine a spotlight on some of the cool stuff that you guys are creating. What I want to see in the comments below is anybody who's going to be using these and integrating them into some form of vehicle. Tell me where your social media is, if it's YouTube, if it's Instagram, wherever, so I can follow you and make sure that I see the stuff that you create with these, because that's the bit that's really exciting. Otherwise, if you've got any questions about the boards or the process or whatever it might be, feel free to either drop me an email. The link is in the About section of my page, or you can just jump over to our Discord channel and you can find me in there. Anyway, I hope that you're as excited about this as I am. Like I say, I think this is the start of something really good, and I can't wait to see what it brings next. Whatever you do with the rest of your day, folks, have a wicked one, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Take it easy, peeps. Bye-bye.